people, let me introduce Dr. Parikh. He's a renowned psychiatrist with, I think, more than 2 decades of experience in the field of mental health. He's considered to be one of the leading experts of India and known for his excellent and expressive communication style. Along with his experience, he's been a speaker par excellence, somebody who connects so well with listeners, with the audience, speaks on national and international forums. And I, being a teacher from India, I know my students benefit a lot. I mean, I actually don't have words to describe the kind of sessions that he has. I should not be going on and on with this because should be giving the floor to him to speak. But excellent communication skills, excellent connect with the audience, and a real expert in the field of well-being and good health. So, Dr. Parikh, without much ado, I think I should give the floor to you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure. It was a pleasure last year around as well. And I'm sure neither you nor I had thought that a year would go by and we'll be doing this all over again virtually. Right exactly. Now, I could give anything to come physically to Singapore and take this session and get out of this room that I have been since the second wave hit India. And I think that's the aspect that I have been talking about. I mean, I'll address it a bit here as well. But I do feel that educationists need to understand that COVID is a life-altering, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity as a teaching moment. And how educationists use COVID to guide future generations will actually have a huge impact on humankind, if at all it had any possibility of improvising on itself. And I think that's something that one needs to reflect upon. A couple of days back was the World Suicide Prevention Day. You must be all aware of that. Hope through action was the theme this year. Basically talking about that if we can bring hope through our actions, we can reduce the number of suicides in the world. Where we lose every 40 seconds, one human being, every 41 seconds, a family loses a loved one. 10th of October is World Mental Health Day, and this year's theme is around equality. So if we reflect on some of these aspects, and if we reflect on our own COVID experience, we'll realize that there is nothing more important than well-being. You know, I was talking to a group of educationists a couple of days back, and this is for just to put a context to our non-Indian colleagues here. So in India, one of the biggest things that happen, the biggest event, so as to say, is 12 board exams, right? And 12 board exam is like this monster that is out there, and for parents, for students, for teachers, and everything. And we've, over the years, several years, we've just made it monster a bigger and bigger monster, rather than just another exam in the lifespan of a young person. So for some countries, it may be like an SAT score or something like that, but something which is very big. And this year, because of COVID, board exams got cancelled. And I was talking to educationists and parents and telling them, generations to come need to be told every time somebody makes a monster out of 12th board exam, that listen, once in a time, 2021, we had a world where we could manage without that exam as well. Mm-hmm. This morning, I had a mother of an 8-year-old who was talking to me that my child's no more motivated to do online sessions. I said, he's 8-year-old. Why would he want to be motivated to see an online session? And if you keep pushing and then the child starts throwing tantrums, that's a normal child. The child hasn't gone out of the 4 walls for a year plus. Of course, there is going to be a boredom and monotony and fatigue happening. Let's be honest to ourselves. Like I said, I would have given anything to fly down tonight if your government would allow a double vaccinated traveler to come and not force me into quarantine, and then take this talk in any one of your countries right now, get me out of this room. And that's normal. We need to understand some of our reactions are normal. Only then we'll be able to focus on well-being, because well-being is the only thing. How do you diagnose mental ailments if well-being gets compromised? How do you measure your happiness and success? It's not going to be the bank balance alone. It's also going to be how well you are doing. So the key here is to recognize the importance, not merely how to do it. Once we internalize, intrinsically make it a motivation for ourselves, we'll be able to focus on well-being. And it's a good thing you're having a conversation on this. Because somehow well-being, especially when it comes to the teaching community, just doesn't come on top of the agenda. Some of the highest attrition rates worldwide happen from the teaching community. And that's something we all need to look into and think about. So when a child is in school, what is the children's experience? They might have difficulty on account of friends, families, teacher, subject, academics. Now the online fact is a reality. Bullying, trolling, all sorts of things. This is a child's look. You may enter the classroom with all the good intent, but you can't control what the child feels on the other side. So the child comes with their own experience, and the facts are 1 in 5 children will have a diagnosable mental, emotional, behavioral disorder. 1 in 10 children will suffer from a serious emotional disturbance, and 70% of children do not receive mental health services. In fact, my strong recommendation to all of you, whichever country you are from, please have a mental health curriculum training for all your teachers. Mental health curriculum is the need of the hour, and for years to come, given the fact, and this is not about developing countries, India and some other countries, worldwide, it's been seen that 75% of people who don't seek help are those because they worry about the stigma. No matter which country you are in, if you'll say you want to see a psychiatrist or a counselor or a therapist, your first reaction from somebody around you would be, why can't you manage it on your own? Give it a try. Don't be in a hurry. But you wouldn't say that if this was diabetes, and certainly not if it was COVID. Now the teacher's experience. We all know teaching is not a 9-to-5 job. So if anybody thought that teaching is, it's a half-day job, I'll go in the morning, be back by lunchtime, and I'll have the day free for myself, we all know that's not true. I mean, forget being a half-day, it's not even a 9-to-5 job, because responsibility of children cannot be segregated to 8 hours of the day. Might light fluctuations, it shall come back in a second. Yeah. And that's a reality. Because the responsibility of children is a big deal. I mean, let's say if a child reaches out to you 10 p.m. on some day and says that I'm really struggling or having a breakdown, it's not that you are going to say that let's have a chat at 9 a.m. And the balancing role of workplace is a tough one when it comes to teachers, because they need to look at the academics, which has been given by the regulatory authorities. They need to look at the parents, who are not always the most easily satisfying customers, if one could say that. And then you have children who are vibrant, diverse, from a very quiet to a running around, to somebody who knows but doesn't speak, or somebody who is not getting it but continues speaking. And then managing this with your own personal life and making sure that the teacher in you switches off when the person in you gets time. It's like how people talk about psychiatrists like me, that, whatever function or whatever get together I go in, people somehow think I'm still diagnosing them and prescribing medications. And that is the last thing on my mind. I don't care. I've been doing that since morning, right? Now, anything but that people won't get it. And they'll keep telling, no, you are a teacher, be a teacher in your school, don't tell me what to do. And that's the teacher's experience now. 1 in every 20 teachers will suffer from mental health related disorders, which is 1 in 20. So right now, if you have about 40 odd people here 2 of us have a mental health ailment. I have my own. So that leaves 39 of you. So you can decide which one of you needs to see me. But 2 of us out of the 40 have it. You're just lucky that I'm here, otherwise there would have been one more person. So 70% teachers report finding their jobs to be extremely stressful, a dipstick analysis anywhere in the world. And majority of teachers report loss of interest, motivation, and a variant of burnout. Sometimes it could be disengagement, sometimes it could be loss of interest, depersonalization, all of that starts happening in. You ask modern day teachers, they will say children no more look up to us the way we used to look up to our teachers. Very standard conversation. You can pick up anybody and you will get that. You'll get to hear that. And the same I'll also say. You'll end up a person like me saying, oh, teachers of those days were absolutely different. These modern day teachers don't have the kind of patience. So you'll hear both sides of things. But that is both true because we are all changing so much. In my 12th class, I was a medical student, a very big thing when it comes to India during the late 80s. And all people would think was that we would study, and all I would do was a bit of guitar here and there and a lot of cricket and this and that, and yes, study also. And even in 12th, I would take debates and competitions. And today, a lot of the success of my career is not because of my science education. It's because of my language education given by my Hindi teacher. Because my Hindi teacher convinced me that I'm a good speaker. You may wake me up from a sleep and tell me to speak for a few hours, I'll just speak. But that's what my school gave me. Now the thing is, when we talk about these things, we need to appreciate how times have changed. But then in 89, when I passed my 12th, there were no mobile phones. There was no internet. There was no cable. It was a truly wonderful world. I didn't have to scroll. I didn't quite care about the filters. It didn't matter. So relationships were different. We had 5-6 friends, continue to be friends now, not the 5,000 followers on a silly platform. And I wouldn't even know. I mean, if any one of us is locked out of our account, and if they use face recognition for you to get back to your own account, and they randomly show you faces of 5 of your followers, there's an 80% chance you will never get back your account because you won't know who they are. And that's the change that has happened. What the pandemic did, it brought e-learning to the fore in a way that we can't imagine. But here I want to just put this perspective. Different countries have had e-learning with different challenges. Where I come from, the digital divide is huge. Because socio-economic factors, urban-rural factors bring a significant digital divide. So in a mainstream city like Delhi or Mumbai, you may actually have, for an upper middle affluent class, a laptop for a student and each members of the family having their own gadget. But you go down lower middle class, it might be 1 gadget per people. You go a bit district rural level, the same internet connection may not be able to manage a meeting like this. So whereas the digital education provided for continuity for a large population, it also brought in a pause of literacy continuation for a larger population as well worldwide. And that's the challenge. So rather than internet being an equalizer, right now it also became a have-not situation again. And where there is digital time, increased screen time issues started happening. Orthopedic issues, eye issues, fatigue, online bullying, online trolling, name calling, shaming, pornography, real-time problems. And it's not that we can't, we just because we don't decide to talk about it, it won't happen. In fact, one of the campaigns that right now I'm doing across India is Bully to Buddy, where we are focusing on online bullying only. So if any one of you want us to do a workshop on online bullying, just drop in a mail. Happy to do this. And issues related to work-life balance have now found more prominence. I mean, if you ask me, I tell you what my day-to-day is. Woke up 7:30. It's been raining, so didn't have the opportunity to water my plants. So there goes my half an hour of mindfulness. Got ready. I had no intentions of shaving today. And then I realized that you guys have this talk. And, a psychiatrist coming in a disheveled manner would be as stereotypical as it gets. So I thought might as well shave. The moment my colleagues realized I have shaved, they sent me a list of 8 or 9 videos which were pending. And I had told them I will make them only on the day I shave. And then I started seeing patients India time 9 a.m. Saw them till about 1:30, sitting in this room on this chair. Everything's happening digital right now. Quickly went out, had food, changed, right here. We'll finish this. We'll be having my next lot of clinical patients. Start seeing, finish at about 6:30, couple of meetings lasting till 8, dinner time, then those damn videos. And there will be 11 p.m. And this cycle will be again tomorrow. And I haven't gone out of this room. And I live in a place where I could actually take walks. So all this work-life balance, I really want to. And I think that's the only work-life balance I do, which is what I tell my colleagues and my family. At least I think about a work-life balance, even if I'm not able to do one. So at least that's contemplative. At least I'm not in a pre-contemplative stage. But that's how life is. That's why well-being in the classroom is important. If we don't inculcate the need and the importance of well-being for 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds, by the time they become 50-year-olds like me, they just stop valuing it. And also for all those who still believe marks make lives, well-being improves results. A child with a higher well-being score would get more marks, will be more intrinsically motivated, which means parents and teachers will not have to get after the poor child's life. Will have better relationship, which means counselors will have to visit the child less. Will promote happiness, will help the society, because I wish the society starts measuring like Bhutan does, a GDP on the level of happiness. And you'll have a resilient society that if at all a pandemic happens again, and I hope it never happens, then we'll have a resilient society that will know how to fight it. And that's how you achieve your true potential. None of that happens if well-being is compromised. You can't have stress, burnout for people performing well in life. And why well-being for teachers? Student-teacher interaction becomes better. The concept teachers are trying to explain, that teaching becomes better. Coping skills become better. Problem solving becomes better. Most importantly, relationships becomes better. And we need to work together to prevent teacher burnout. Teacher burnout has to be given an utmost importance worldwide. Okay, we have to be deliberate in our efforts to make well-being a priority. What learners can do. And here everybody is a learner. First and foremost, unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Share your experiences. That's how we learn from each other. Life is the teaching moment. That's why I said use COVID as a teaching moment. Talk to students. Let teachers and students talk about their COVID experience. Some of you may have been quarantined. How did you deal with it? Some of you may have a family member who went through COVID. How did you deal with it? Some of you may have got support from neighbors, distant family, colleagues. How share those stories. This is how a societal learning churning happens. Rely on peers, teachers, mentors, parents, and coping through divergent thinking is facilitated when you share. Because your coping and my coping will be different, so we may learn from each other's copings. Build support systems offline. Online, in any case, is going to happen. We will not have an option. But offline support systems, and again, COVID as an example. 1,000+ followers, nobody to talk to. One friend, talk to that person. Works best, doesn't it? Support at home is a must. Strengthen home relationships. reach out and connect. So I've been talking about this for social media. 1 in 5 people in the world suffer from a mental ailment, so 1 in 5 posts should be about mental health. Social media should be to not increase followers, but to increase connections. And you keep reaching out, pick up a cause and keep working on that cause. That's the way to use online. Develop emotional regulation skills. Emotional regulation needs to be addressed. In fact, right now, I'm doing a series of workshops my team is doing across schools in India, which is on coaching emotions, working on emotional dysregulation, because emotional dysregulation has increased so much because all of us are caged in our own way, and the way of our life has drastically been impacted. It's going to take a bit of time for it to go to what it was. I mean, yes, we as a country have reached a 60% vaccination ratio, first dosage. I mean, we are doing remarkable. I mean, we probably vaccinated more than a few countries put together. Yet we are at 60%, and hopefully by the end of the year, we would be at 100%. But the fact is, even after that, the absolute normalization of no masks, nobody knows when we'll achieve that. So recognize multiple feeling states, understand emotions, look at alternatives, build skills, and then develop distress tolerance. Distress is a part of life. Your tolerance level on distress is the key. If your tolerance is low, you will have poorer outcomes. Tolerance is better, you'll have better outcomes. So find ways that you can handle your distress tolerance. And like it or not, positivity is not merely a word. It has to be an experience that has to be integrated with our own sense of well-being. Valuing what is good in us, not comparing, recognizing individuality, recognizing strengths and weaknesses. I have tons of weaknesses, some strengths. I recognize my strengths, use them to the best, keep working on my weakness, and have no problems in accepting I don't know more than what I know. And that's quite okay. But doesn't make me feel inferior because my knowledge may be different, yours can be different. That's life. Empathy is critical to a society, not just to well-being. And something that we need to ensure we never lose it. Somewhere over the past decade and a half, empathy went into the closets. A lot of empathy has come out during COVID. It now should always stay out and never go back in our closets. Lifestyle has to be valued. I think exercise and diet, we don't value enough. I don't think we value sleep enough. Look at some of these advertisements or some of the the feeds that come on your mobile phones and your your internet connections, where they'll call it binge-worthy television show. A list of online streaming shows which are binge-worthy. How can binge and worthy be put together? Binge is a pathology. Worthy is not a pathology. You put them together and then you have young people saying, oh, you know what? I completed that show in one day. You idiot. It was 8 hours. That means you compromise your 4 hours of sleep, few hours of going out, this and that. So understand, we need to understand there's an orchestrated attempt to impact our lifestyle. If we don't ensure that that impact that is being forced upon us, we don't take care of, young people will suffer. And I think conversations around substances are must. We are seeing worldwide, again, an orchestration of conversation happening around cannabis. My fear is that some years down the lane, and I hope I'm gone and dusted by that time, but we'll probably have cannabis being served and available almost every nook and corner, because the orchestration of making it legal or making it available would succeed, and then it'll be something else. In every 20, 30, 40, 50 years, we'll keep allowing a substance or the other. That's why encourage no substance behavior. What can teachers do? If you can, try and be a bit regular. I've been talking about work window, which means start and stop time, relative fixed. No harm saying a no. It's okay to say no today so that you can do better tomorrow. Assertiveness is a skill teachers must have. Most importantly, some mindful time for your own self. Consciously taking time out for your own self. When we talk about kindness and gratitude is not merely about others, it's also about your own self. First, be kind to your own self, then you can be kind to others. The reverse will never work. So you recognize you're good, you be kind to yourself, you'll be able to be kind to others very easily. Invest in relationships. The one big takeaway from COVID, relationships made us fight it. I believe values and purpose and meaning is what matters. I don't look at life as end matters. I think means matter. If means matter, end would automatically matter. I don't believe shortcuts work. I think what you want to achieve, you do it in a way which is with a certain set of values. That's a true purpose and meaning of life. Growth mindset. Growth mindset means prepare for transition because transitions will happen. Change happens. Be prepared. Don't be rigid. Focus on what you can control. Wear a mask. What you can't control, if it's out there, it's out there. Maintain positivity, which means be productive, but be willing to solve problems. We had a vaccine in what, a year's time. Remarkable, isn't it? So what brilliant scientific work done by the community. And like I said, not just for children, but for yourself, cognizant of your needs and your own lifestyle. And remember, you will also feel. You are human beings. Human beings feel. If a pin pricks, it bleeds. If something not nice happens, it hurts. You recognize that feeling and do something about it. Don't push it down the carpet. It'll become bigger than what it is. People have asked me this for a long time, and I continue to say this. I was asked this by a young psychiatrist a few days back, that you do these Twitter spaces every Friday evening, India time, 9 p.m. And sometimes very less people attended, sometimes more people attended. Why do you continue it? I said, I believe in it. It doesn't matter whether one person is listening or 500 are listening. How does it change what I have to say or do? My life cannot be governed by a feedback mechanism only. It's also about what I want to do, what I feel is right, what I think needs to be done. So how I reward myself is with satisfaction. That's the biggest reward. What can schools do if there are administrators here? Create structured frameworks to build social and emotional skills. I think we need to start working on this. Integrate a curriculum on mental health. And look at effectiveness assessment of various programs and keep working on them. But structured frameworks and keep going, changing with time. I think that's important. You need to make it very relevant to the time and utilize life's teaching moments and don't seem dated when you are teaching something. I believe life skills should be integral to our curriculum, which I think most of you are doing in any case. I feel collaborative approach is the only solution, especially Southeast Asia. Our percentage of mental health experts is very low. Our best case scenario is having all stakeholders with the best possible skills that they can have, so we can all pitch in a little by little, a chisel in our hand, so that we can solve the mountain problem that mental health is. Create mechanisms for referral, redressal, and establish support networks. A top-down approach, teams, connectivity, formal and informal connectedness, empathy, sensitivity. These are the key ingredients of teams that do well, organizations that do well. And I'm again using a COVID example here. I have seen this, and I've worked with over 1,000 organizations, over 10,000 schools over the past year plus. Every school or organization which was cohesive, closely knit, the outcomes for that group, that microsystem, were so much better when they were all struggling when the waves hit us. 3 special initiatives that we have, and we'll be very happy to share with you. One is a mental health curriculum. It's a 5-module curriculum. Just write in a mail. We'll be happy to have an expert do a teacher training. Psychological first aid, I think all of us should get a training into. We get training into first aid and CPR. But what are the odds and percentages of you using CPR in your lifetime as compared to you needing to use psychological first aid? What are the odds of you coming across a person who's having code blue vis-a-vis who's having a heartbreak? So psychological first aid first. And for all your students, we'll be having a quiz somewhere in the month of December. It's a fun quiz for those who like psychology. You can catch us on our social media platforms. A couple of books that we've written, if you're interested, read them. A couple of ebooks, some other books. There's a comic out there if you're interested in comics for children, which is on study and exam skills. This is a curriculum I'm talking about. You want to know more about us, feel free to tag any of the various social media platforms. We make sure that wherever you'll go, you'll find us, because you never know which platform young people are using. So we make sure that we find them, and in our own way, we stock them with positivity. This is a helpline that we run in India, but anybody can call us. It's a 24-hour helpline run in 14 languages. And my take-home message for all of you: choose actions that matter. Choose actions that matter. Everything we do should matter. The purpose, the meaning, the values. So choose actions that matter. And on that note, I shall start taking questions.
Thank you, Dr. Parikh, for such an insightful sharing. It really sets me thinking on a lot of your points mentioned in the sharing. So to kickstart, all right, hi participants, I'm April. I will be moderating this segment of Q&A. May I invite you to either unmute yourself to ask Dr. Parikh a question, or you may pen down your questions in the chat, using the chat function below. So Dr. Parikh will now start to take questions. Is there anyone who would like to personally unmute yourself to ask a question?
Okay, I see a lot of questions being typed. I'm going to quickly take them, and then you can tell us. So
okay. So the
Juliet, you mentioned that we do and have had for years. It is fighting an uphill battle. We are able to direct 40% of our happiness. 40% is not too bad. You know, in my grandfather's time, 33% used to be passing. So
in Australia, we had a study that they looked at our biology, our environment, our culture, and they found that there is so much we can't do. We understand that, but we do have 40% where we have control over our own happiness, and that can come through altruism, volunteering, exercise, reflection, connection, stepping beyond our own boundaries, and just challenging ourselves a little more. And it's amazing the impact it has on our immune system. There are so many benefits. And I think that then I've actually been in a very good situation. I'm in a school, I've been there 20 years. We teach positive psychology. It's across 5 years, and we teach grit. And part and parcel of that is to try and counter what is turning into an awful condition with young people where they feel so helpless. But unfortunately, but we have to teach them how to, rather than be victims of it, to actually be proactive and make some choices that are more life-giving, so that when they go out of the school, they at least have some strategies. And I'm lucky, I'm in a school that does that. I know it's not across all schools in Australia, but it's certainly across a large number, and it's becoming more powerful as a learning opportunity for young people. But it's one of those things that it's very interesting because the question that came up earlier is, we're so worried about our students, but how do we teach our students have empathy for the teachers? And that is a very important lesson, because they are all desperate to have everybody sympathize with them and empathize with them and work to look after them, support them. And my problem at the moment is I'm finding an awful lot of my students are actually, I understand they have issues, but they're also using that as a victimizing thing. So therefore they don't have to step up and deal with the demands of school. So it's a kind of whole pile of balance that's an issue. But I loved hearing you last year, and I'm loving hearing you again. So thank you again for that. And I will mute myself, because otherwise I'll ramble.
No, but spot on. I think in one word, when you talk about altruism, you actually look at probably the easiest path towards happiness, because it truly, truly imbibes everything that a civilization or a society needs to be about, because it cannot be about the self alone. Okay, so I had a question from
Jyoti?
Jyoti
yes.
Rahman. Explain a bit about divergent thinking and how it can help in stress. So see, let's say I have an approach to managing stress, which could be playing a sport, and it's helping me. But you may have a strategy of listening to music. I never tried music, you never tried sport. If both of us try it, it will now give us an extra option for the same problem. So you get multiple options, because you can't, I mean, if I'm stressed at 11 p.m. about something and it's bothering me, I can't go out and play football. So divergent thinking is important because it also opens up the options and horizons for decision making. Narrow window for decision making, chances of making error are much higher. So that's how. Okay. Rika Rachmita Sujatma, sorry. You're interested in integrating mental health into curriculum. You can just drop in a mail to me or to SF, and they'll facilitate, I'm sure. So mental health curriculum, right now we have it in English and Hindi. It has 5 modules. What we do is, ideally speaking, we would like to train teachers for 5 modules, 1 hour each. Some schools who don't have time, we've tried to concise it for them, but in an ideal situation, 1 hour each. Through this module, we help teachers understand how to talk mental illness, how to help children prioritize mental health per se, not just mental illness, how to reduce stigma and increase help-seeking behavior, how to prioritize well-being and create a culture of well-being and resistance in the classroom. Mental health curriculum in years to come will do a lot good, especially in countries where stigma relatively is even more higher. So just feel free, either through SF or directly, either ways is fine. Okay, Lee, that's yours. April, that's yours, sorry.
Yes.
You agree that empathy is such a valuable trait to be promoted for well-being and harmony. It's also an observation that students lack empathy towards teacher. That's true. And I'll tell you why. How do we get students to have empathy for teachers? See, 2 aspects. Aspect 1, it is unfortunate that we have started looking empathy in specific directions and not a generic direction. So ideally, in an ideal world, it should have been, I am an empathetic person. Now, it doesn't matter who the other person is. I'll give you an example here, since you're all educationists. I was asked about this a couple of days back by young professional, young psychologist, while I was doing a summer internship training for them. That, sir, are you LGBTQI plus friendly or affirmative doctor? I said, no, I am not. I am an affirmative, empathetic doctor per se. The moment I am saying I am more affirmative or more accepting of a particular population, does it mean I'm not for the others? Or does it mean tomorrow when the society comes up with more groups, will I need to certify, am I affirmative? Am I friendly? Am I positive? It's people. So if orientation doesn't matter to me, caste wouldn't, color wouldn't, country wouldn't. If I feel you have depression, I will give you the same medication based on your age that I'm supposed to give in your medical history. It wouldn't matter to me, some of these things. So empathy cannot be subjective. But however we say this, the reality is it has become directive and subjective and not generalized. We need to create generalization of empathy. So we don't need to get children to empathize towards teachers. We need to make children empathize per se. So when you start empathizing people, feelings, experiences, then this demarcation will not be there. Because this could have been a parent asking children don't empathize with parents. This could have been any other person saying for any other person. We should not try and say, oh, empathize with your parents, see what they are going through, see how much teachers putting in effort. No, you empathize. That's it. Empathy and full stop. Empathy towards is not good English.
Thank you, Mr.
My
Thank you, Dr.
presentation I
Parikh.
will send to the SF team and they can share with you. That's not a problem at all.
I think Daiva also has another question for Dr. Parikh to probably share some techniques or methods on how a teacher can help for a teacher to take care of their mental and well-being.
I think it's about communication, openness, and conversation. In our day-to-day life and functioning from one period to another period, from one class to another class, and one scoring and one data maintenance and this and that, we become very robotic. And what that does is it takes away the human factor out of us. In fact, that's why we are now struggling with COVID, because at least now we are understanding that we need to meet each other. That those coffee table, tea table conversations in breaks were actually our booster shots of well-being, which we took so granted for that we didn't realize it then, and now we do. If you communicate in the true sense, you are taking care of each other's well-being. When you communicate, and when I said unmute yourself, two parts to unmute. One is unmute your words and feelings and expressions. Second is unmute your compassion and care and acceptance. If both of the unmuting happens, that's your well-being in the classroom.
So the next question comes from Lily's. She asked, what if there is a student who does not want to have the camera on, unmute and talk, even though other teachers and I have tried our best to be open to him, supportive, also share with him our difficulties. For example, this student is actually going through difficult situation in online learning, connection via mobile phone also not working, and the parents have also been reached out, but it's not successful to make him engaged there. He's just there in silence. Would you have
not an easy question to answer because one would not know more details. But typically, I would like to somebody whom this child is able to relate to, any teacher, counselor, or anybody, to just talk to the child and understand what about the camera is giving this child anxiety. And then we work on it rather than just using the rule that the camera should be on. That's how I would like to approach this, because we don't know the why. Until we don't know the why, we won't be able to the how. So but only one person should talk to the child about this. And that should be the person with whom the child relates the best.
Okay. Thank you. There's another question from Kavita. She would like to ask a question about the role of teacher in the past and in the present.
Difficult one, isn't it? I am a nostalgic for the past kind of a person. Very, very nostalgic. You know, a couple of few days back I had my birthday, and the first person to wish me was my physics teacher from grade 12. I don't frequent myself the social media handles we are on. So a colleague of mine told me in the morning that, sir, at about 1 a.m. On your Facebook, we got a happy birthday message from some AK Das. I said, oh, that's my 94 in physics. That's my physics teacher who wished me. I passed in 89. That's what, a lifetime away. And the second is my psychiatry teacher, Dr. Parikh. In fact, for those of you who are have an interest in psychology, on 10th October for 12 weeks, I'm doing conversations every 8 p.m. on Sunday, India time 8 p.m. Bharat Panchal dialogues. Bharat Panchal is my teacher of psychiatry. And he is the one, it's been 20 years I've left the city where I studied. Every year on my birthday, I'll get 2 or 3 books that he would have read, which would be the best books he's read in the last few months, and he'll send them to me. So here you have, that is what, so I'm very nostalgic when it comes to past. But I feel it's also about the connectedness. Our struggle is that the exposure verticals to young people are just way too many. And it's so much easier to sell a fast food which looks pretty, where so much photoshopping has happened on typically a very, very ugly looking image, that food actually looks pretty. Try having that full burger without spilling it all over your face and your clothes and your plate. But when you click it, it looks so pretty, so perfect, so multicolored that a child wants to have it, not realizing that healthier food is so much easier to eat as well. But that's how it is. Now, because the influences are so many, it has diluted a lot of abilities of the teaching community in today's time to be able to make an impact. Role models have become lesser and lesser. So modern day role models are another issue. So if you have a sports role model, then you might have somebody who's sledging or abusing on the field. You might have a music role model, then the language of the songs is absolutely unacceptable. So when you start looking at some of these aspects, it's these kind of things which are acting on children. So you can only do as much that you can do, as long as they feel you are relatable and you are not coming from holier than thou preachy kind of a pedestal. You'll be able to do a good job of it. They just need to find you relatable. And I think that's where the key is. So my teacher, Dr. Bharat Panchal, we have completely contrasting personalities. I don't stop speaking and he rarely speaks. And but the impact that I got space to express, and I have a motivation that he should not be disappointed with what I do. That relatedness was on him, not on me. I have done nothing. I was a raw, strange, not the most sociably pleasant character that just so happened to be reaching him, and in 3 or 4 years churned out something else. That aspect needs to be understood. Okay, Shi Min Tan, your question. Student told you that insomnia and would cry without reason. And 2 aspects. Insomnia may or may not always be a depression or mental health issue. Sometimes insomnia can purely be a lifestyle issue. For example, caffeine intake, nighttime, bedtime behavior, which is sleep hygiene, sleeping with television or with mobile phone, not adequate activity, physical activity in the day, some of those also interfere with sleep. So correction of sleep hygiene can help that. But if there are depressive features happening, where sadness, loss of interest, loss of mood, other kinds of problems happening, then probably one needs to look at it and start with a counselor. Even if the child is unwilling to go to a psychiatrist, which is quite fine, start with a counselor. Let's give basic treatment, initial intervention, and then give ourselves time.
Sorry, Dr. Parikh, we have time for one more question. So probably is there any question that you would like to answer? Because there is Christina's question on is there any country to your knowledge that is included a nationwide curriculum on mental health?
I'm not sure, but there are mental health curriculums being taken by several states and several schools in several countries. I'm not sure, like suicide prevention policy, there are a few nations have that that a nation per se has a mental health curriculum. Not too sure about that, but lots of schools across the world and some states more or less are taking it. Our part of the world, we really don't have much happening in this front, and it's something very basic, and we'll be very happy to support all of you. And I'll take one more, which is your question: what kind of media should we teach students on pandemic situation to get a good result? Media, I am not averse to what media. I think it's about how media. So I'll give you a very basic answer to this. Start teaching media literacy to your children. Why this message? Why this message has reached me? How has this message reached me? Who has made this message? Who gets advantage from this message? What are facts in the message? What are hidden facts in the message? What are incorrect messages in this message? Is this message using emotions to convince me? Is this message using a role model to convince me? Is this message forcing a lifestyle on me? Is this message forcing a call to action on me? Use these filters. That's media literacy. And if we give media literacy, then what part of media the child would not matter.
Thank you, Dr. Parikh, for answering all the questions. We definitely have insightful learning from you.